Hi, this is Daryl Webster here, and I just wanted to take a quick comparison between the email interaction of receiving email in your mailbox and the conversation view, and how a email notification looks also coming into your inbox. So I've got two conversations here. The bottom one that I've got here about copy of Facebook post is traditional email, and the one above that is messages that have been sent via Yammer using the email notifications. So just to show you, I've got this sitting over in a separate folder within my mailbox, just as an example, so that I can preserve what that looks like and talk about it. So firstly, we'll look at something that's quite familiar to us within our inbox. We see the message, and in conversation view within Outlook, we see the most recent message as it comes to the top. So I do see a preview there of what's the first line within the message. I see the subject and I see who sent that message. If I expand that out now, I get to see the conversation. Firstly, in that first click, I see the replies, and if I click it a second time, then I can see my responses as well, which are coming, of course, from my sent items folder. So we get a good view of the whole conversation. What people are used to doing is, rather than looking at this view perhaps, they might look at the conversation just within that one message, and so they'll perhaps want to scroll down to the bottom and see, oh, what's this message all about, work the way up, read, okay, that's the response, and here's the other response. So we get that view all within that one message. We could also do it this way. We could select the message at the bottom of the list. We could see, okay, that's the message, and then I'll look at my response to that and click through and have that conversation view. So that's flicking between the messages within a traditional email conversation. Now let's have a quick look at the experience of the email notifications that come through from Yammer. Again, we've got a message, and one difference here, we can see it's Guy Johnson, but it's Guy Johnson on Yammer. So it's not coming directly from his email address, it's coming from his persona on the Yammer network. We also see an indication too of other people that are involved in the conversation. So we see also the first line of that conversation, just like we do with a traditional email. If we click the expand to try and see the conversation to start with, some of the thread of the conversation, then we do, like we saw with the traditional email, we get to see all the messages at this stage. If I click it again, I can see further responses, just like we can do with the traditional email conversation. I haven't replied recently to this thread, so you don't see my replies in there, but we'll do that shortly. One thing before we go into that is looking at the message itself. Of course, it is Yammer styled. It shows the message itself, so what's been sent to you in this email, and then a bit of context about what's been responded to, but we don't get the whole tale. We do get a couple of things, such as this link to say if you want to see the whole conversation, then you can go over to the web interface and have a look at it from there. However, like what I'm trying to illustrate to you within this video is that if you are keeping your email notifications from Yammer conversations, then you can get a very close, almost or very similar experience of the conversation view within Outlook. It's just that we don't get that long tail of the conversation within a whole message. So we have a look here. We've got a message from Guy Johnson. If we wanted to go back earlier in the conversation, and you will see some of the conversation responses that I have here. One other difference, as you see, is that the sent items are together and further down the bottom. They're still part of the same conversation, but they're not perhaps slotted in between where they might be in the timeline. I don't recall where these actually are supposed to fit within this conversation, but I think this is just showing items within my sent folder that I have responded to with this conversation. So we can, just like with the traditional email conversation, work our way up the conversation thread and see all the responses. and we are keeping a conversation history within our mailbox. If you used mail rules, then you could perhaps fire them off to specific folders if that's how you work, and keep the conversations around customers or topics of conversation or projects. So you do get that similar experience. Each time, as you see, the conversation is showing the person sending the message is from Yammer or on Yammer, and we do get that impression that it isn't directly from email, but we know who it's from. And so you can see that we can still have that conversation view experience. Just one other thing that I will show before we close off the video is the experience of responding to that message. So I'm responding to that top message from Guy Johnson. We see that the email is not to Guy Johnson, it's the unique Yammer email address that will drop my response straight back into that thread. And as I send that off, we should see there the familiar icon to show that this is a message that's being replied to. And actually we do see the example there of the sent item sitting in the correct order of the timeline, and I've responded to that from my email. So it's a very similar experience. The only major difference I see is that you can't read the whole conversation thread from one message. Yammer, you've got this view conversation, you've got perhaps the comment that someone's replying to, whereas if we go down to our email example here, I can go into a single message and I can scroll and see the whole message. And I think maybe that's one of the main gripes or complaints that people have between the two experiences of email conversations in traditional Outlook and responding to email notifications within Yammer. Thanks for watching.